Welcome everyone to All Things Relative at the library. And I want to introduce Kathy Nielsen and thank you for joining us. Just a couple house rules before we get going. Like Kathy mentioned, if you do have questions during the presentation, please feel free to place them in the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat as Kathy's presenting, and I'll read them out loud if we need to. If not, we will address them all at the very end. Or if you'd like, hold on to your question, and at the very end of the presentation, we will open up the floor and we can have a conversation about any questions for Kathy. So after that, Kathy, it's all yours.
Great, thank you, Shawn. Well, let's get organized. If you're like me, you have piles of paper, maybe not to this extent, but you've got piles of paper on your desk that you mean to file or you mean to put away or you mean to do something with, and you're just not even quite sure where to put them. So I hope today I can give you some ideas. I have lots of ideas about how to organize. I'm not always as great about doing what I say, but I'm trying, and I'm hoping that by talking to you, I too will get energized and get through my piles. We stay up late because we're tracking some ancestor, we're excited about an ancestor, and we're copying things off on, that we find in a website that we don't want to lose. And this is what this is all about today, where we can put those things, those discoveries that we found. And I hope that you walk away with a couple of ideas. We're going to explore a lot of things. So if you walk away with one idea and think you're going to try it, then I'm going to be happy. So let's get started. And I think the first thing is we're going to divide and conquer. We're going to take this in pieces. So one of these pieces may appeal to you more than another. We're going to look at online trees, which are a great way to organize your research. We're going to touch base on genealogy software. We're going to talk about paper documents and the big question, are you a binders or a folders person? Both work, so you can decide what works best for you. What do you do with your computer folders? How do you organize them? And then, of course, what do you do with your photos? That's a biggie. I do have a talk on photos on All Things Relative, and so that goes into more depth. So if that's something that you're dealing with right now, you might want to watch that presentation. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about Evernote, which is a software program that has saved my life, actually. This is the kind of thing that you take Scotch tape and tape to your screen, to your monitor, because you don't want to forget it, because you don't know what to do with that note. So these are those random notes and quick things you've jotted down, where to put them and where to find them. Okay, so let's start with online family trees because they're really fun. They're fun and they're easy, and we get a lot of results as a result of them. Family Search, Ancestry, MyHeritage, and Find My Past, the big four, all have family trees that you can research and that you can create. So here's Family Search. Last month we talked a little bit about free resources, and Family Search is free. It's connected with the Latter-day Saints Church, and it is every bit as good as Ancestry. And it's free. So just remember that. You can search the trees on Family Search and you can create a tree. And this is what the homepage looks like. And one of my ancestors is Elizabeth A. Sales. And what's popped up is somebody who just added something about her and they wanted me to see that. Okay, so let's say I'm creating a tree. And I do that just by adding myself and then going back a ways. The neat thing about Family Search and many of the other databases is that they give you record hints and research suggestions. Like this little blue thing is a record hint. This is a research suggestion. It means that someone else has been working on this tree as well. Family Search is a collaborative tree. It's not your own tree. It's everybody bringing their information together. And that's really nice, and that you can learn from others. The thing that's tricky about it is when someone else challenges you and your research and says, well, you have to defend yourself if there is a challenge. But it is a very good collaboration, and you do learn a lot from each other. So let me see if I go ahead. Frederica, and this is Frederica over here to the right. Frederica is my great-grandmother, and she came to America from Sweden in about 1880. And you can see that there are some research suggestions already with her. If I were to click on her, I can see that I'm following her. Now, I've created this online family tree so that other people will build on it with me, and that you can do this very easily by just starting out with yourself and then adding your ancestors. With Frederica, I am following her. You can see that right there, so that anybody who is also researching Frederica, I get information, what they have added, which adds to my tree, which means someone else is doing research for me. Now I want to check and see if I think they're right, but at least it's a hint. Now you can see that in this collaborative tree, there are 11 sources, 1 memory. And let's go in and look at her tree. Okay, so not sure why that's not, let's make this a little larger. Okay, here we go. Here's my grandfather, and Frederica would be up here. Here she is. And let's go in and look at her actual profile. So Family Search creates a timeline for me. And here's Frederica, the picture that I posted of her, and then a timeline. Those of you that have been to other programs I've given know that I'm really big on timelines. I think it's a way of seeing where your holes are. So Frederica's there. Now she has 12 resources. And these are all resources that people have added that are now on this tree, which I can claim part of. And these are the people who have added those resources. These are people that are your cousins that you can contact through email. And in fact, I did that with Julia Moore right here. You can see she's been really active. Julia Moore is a second cousin, 2 or 3 times removed. She lives in Salt Lake City. And when I went back to a Roots Tech with one of my cousins who's online right now, we met Julia Moore. Remember Ingrid? We had dinner with Julia Moore, and delightful cousin, and she had all kinds of information for us. So this is a really good way to make connections. And then memories would be something you might want to add. I want to go back a bit to Frederica, and I want to show you her family. They give us her children and her husband, and these are her siblings. Now, Victor Johansson Sandgren, who changed his name because of he took the name of an employer. Frederica kept her Johansdotter. Victor became a Mormon. He was converted in Sweden. There were Mormon missionaries that converted him, and they paid for his passage to America. So he has a very big Mormon family, and you can see all the things that are going on here. You can see,
Kathy,
yes.
is there any way to make the screen a little larger? Some of the text is getting a little hard to read.
Is that better?
Yes.
Like that? How's
that?
That's
definitely better. Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so here's Frederica, and then here's Victor Sandgren. So Victor has 30, let's go look at his again. He's got 32 sources, and he's got some collaboration, and he's got 15 memories. This is really great. He's got all kinds of pictures that people have posted, documents that people have posted, and a lovely, delightful story about his daughter written up by one of the ancestors who on the ship over from Sweden slipped and almost fell off the ship, and a steward grabbed her dress and pulled her back. So she was only about 11 at the time. So delightful things about that. that tell a little bit more about our ancestors. So Family Search really encourages us to put memories, to put sources up, and to put a timeline up. It's really a good place to start, but it is not your own tree. That's part of the problem. Okay, so let's get back to our, so that's Frederica. All righty. So family trees on Family Search, you're dealing with a collaborative tree. It's not your own tree. So personal information, something that you don't want up there, you don't want to put it up on this tree. But you can acquire sources, photos, and memories through this collaboration that you can add to your own research. And you can ability to connect with cousins. And there are good sources for hints, record hints. So it's a great place to start, and it's free. So now let's look at Ancestry. Ancestry, now this front page looks a little different than the Ancestry first page in the library, because that's a library edition. This is the subscription edition. You can go into other people's public member trees and do research. And you can also create your own tree. So here's my first page. And is this big enough for everyone? I'll try a little bit better. Yeah. What I like about the front page of the first page, the home page, is that they pick up where you left off, whoever you were researching on last. And you notice there's these shaky leaves, which also are hints. And then they also give you more hints for the person that you may have been researching. This is really nice. Now, when you get to the point where you want to search your own tree or create your own tree, you go into Family Tree, and you can see these are trees I've created. This is my main tree, my two main families, my husband's tree, and I'm working on a draft. It's private. I don't want it up, but these two are public. And this is private. This is my daughter's. I've shared with some of you that my daughter's adopted, and we're working on her birth family, and that's private right now. And these are trees that I have actually written to these people, and I'm researching their trees as well. So what you want to do when you create your tree is you go in, and let's see, I'm having you create, and you can create it. You can say when you modify it, you can invite family, even family who don't subscribe to Ancestry can see your tree, and you can create it. And it's a great way to keep track of your resources. Now, the amazing thing about this tree is that you can add the resources that other people have. And I love this about Ancestry. A little tricky here. So, okay, so I know you can't see the names, but you can see the blue means that there's a DNA contact, and the green means that there are some of things of interest. So let's go into Daniel Mosier. And when you make it a little bit bigger, okay, here's Daniel. Here's his DNA connections, but here's his profile. And again, there's a timeline of various things that were happening in his life. And here's some sources that people have connected. And here's his parents, and here's his children. There's a life story. Ancestry's put together a little life story about the things that you've included. There's the facts, and then there's hints. Now, the great thing about the hints, seems to be a problem with hints for some reason. The great thing about hints is that you can attach them to your tree. And with that attachment goes the source material. You don't have to create a source. That is wonderful. You just do the source, and it's automatic. I love that about Ancestry. Okay, so that's Ancestry. Also, they'll give you more tips about where to search and contacts with cousins. So this is the Ancestry tree. All righty. So Family Search has record hints. Ancestry has green dots. Formerly they were shaky leaves. They use green dots now. And MyHeritage has smart matches. And these are all ways to add to the tree that you've created, so that you've got a really nice record of your family. It's easy. You don't have to worry about sources. You just play around with it, and you add things. It's wonderful. Here's my heritage, same kind of thing. My heritage page, and you create your family tree. Same thing, and also it has. You can see here's the record searches and suggestions, same kind of thing. So those are, and Find My Past is another one. Find My Past is English based. Okay. So here's my heritage, other suggestions. I get emails periodically about new sources that have come up that are related to people on my tree. And just the other day, I got a hint about the marriage license for my grandparents. So I was really happy to see that for my Swedish grandparents. So those are great, great things to do. And it's a very good place to start. Online family trees are easy to use, good place to start, and a good place just to explore. And you don't even have to worry about paper because everything you attach is all digitized. Easy to organize, easy to source, really easy to share with family members. You can just send a link to a family member who's not on any of these accounts, and you can share what you've discovered. Easy to connect with new cousins, and it helps you with these record hints, these shaky leaves, and these smart matches. And it's attractive and easy to move around in. So it's a very good place to start. Now it gets a little bit more complicated. Oh, and the cons, let's talk about those. You can only access your family tree when you're on the internet because they're web-based products. They're companies that are on the web. They do have apps on your phone or your tablet. So if your phone or tablet is on a phone line, if your phone certainly, you can access on your phone, but not on your computer. So that is a negative. And some family information may be best private. You might want to keep it for the family to know about, but you don't want the whole world to know about it. So it's not the place for private information. And we have to remember that these subscription companies are companies that want to make a profit. They're using they're data mining us, really. They want to use our information for their financial gain. So you have to decide how much you want to give them of your information. So those are just things to consider. And if you stop your subscription, you lose access to that information. Now, unless you've deleted it, it will remain on the site. They'll keep it because they want that information. So if you decide to stop your subscription and you go on and you have another hobby like gardening or stamp collecting, and you're not going to do genealogy so much anymore, make sure you've downloaded that information, and you can do it with something that's called a Jedcon. We'll get back to that in a little bit, but that's very easy to do. You download it and you put it in another program. So be sure if you're going to stop your subscription, make arrangements to get your information off there because otherwise you won't be able to have access to it. And the companies change hands. Ancestry's changed about 2 times since I've been doing this, and each time there's been a little different direction and even almost a different mission. Ancestry's now, there's a question of who owns the photos that you put up. Are they your photos or Ancestry's photos? Ancestry's saying they're your photos, but Ancestry wants the right to use those photos for marketing or whatever. So you have to just realize these are companies that want to make money, and but they provide so many services, it's worth it. Okay, so what I suggest as far as trees is that you post a modified tree, and this is just my direct lineage, my mom, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, and so forth. Just put your direct lines on. You don't have to put everybody else on because that's enough to bring in cousin material. Attach the documents that you would like, and that there are many. Share the pictures that you would like and feel comfortable sharing because they're out there and other cousins will be benefiting from the pictures you put up. But be selective. Just don't put everything out there. So this is one reason why I've turned to genealogy software. I have my trees up on all these sites. I have modified trees up, and I'm using them as what they call cousin bait. So when a cousin sees my tree and says, oh, she's done some work on this and contacts me, That's really great. I'm happy to connect with a cousin. But for my own personal research, I personally am happy to have it on my desktop and be able to work on it on an airplane or any place without an internet connection. So with your genealogy software, you have complete control. It's on your computer, it's your information, and it's your research. And those private things, those private stories can be on there. It keeps all of your information together. It keeps all of the details relating to a specific person. It stores your photos, your documents, and in some cases, maybe interviews you've had or movies. It organizes or easily research in a note or narrative format. I love that. Creates a timeline. And it creates all kinds of charts, reports, website, and even a book. So if you find that you want more from the online trees that are available, and you want to move to the next step, consider genealogy software at some point, if you're really seriously getting into this. And it links to all your sources. Lisa Louise Cook, who has the podcast Genealogy Gem, she's one of my gurus. She says that something happens when you enter data into a database. The power of your data is revealed and new revelations come to light. I think that's just like when you take notes and you write something down, you are apt to remember it better. I think that when you've gone through the research and you're refining it and putting it into a timeline, you're apt to remember it more. There are all kinds of desktop genealogy software, and these are just a few, the main ones. The first thing that you want to think about is, are you a Mac user or a PC user? Because some programs are specifically for Mac, some are for PC, and some are for both. And the ones that I would recommend that you look at are Family Tree Maker, Legacy, Reunion, and Roots Magic. These two have been around a long time. This one is up and coming. It's with MyHeritage. But you can see that these four, and Family Tree Maker now too also, has a mobile app that you can actually access all this information on your phone or your tablet. And Family Tree Maker syncs with Ancestry. If you have a family tree on Ancestry in which you're building with documents, it will drop those documents into your software, which makes it really easy. Legacy does that with Family Search. Roots Magic does that with Ancestry and Family Search. Family Search has a lot of partnerships with software. So the cost is usually $50 to $100. It is a more sophisticated way of keeping track of your information. Now I use Reunion, and Reunion is a Mac program. I'm not going to dwell on this because I know some of you use other programs, but the elements of each of these programs is the same. So what I share with you, these same things are in the other programs. They're just maybe in a different format. But you can see I've pulled up my grandparents, and on the line above are my great grandparents, and here are my mother and my aunt and uncle. So that's there. And then there's a place for my notes. There's a place for charts, reports. It's just amazing. All my photos about my grandmother, I can put in, I can do a slideshow right from my software. I can make charts, just a simple family tree chart, or I can do a cascading pedigree chart, or I can do a fan chart, however I want. And then I can email these to any of my cousins who are interested. I can make a book. I can take all the information that I have in my software and I can create a book, complete with photos and a narrative. And actually, the editing is very small that you have to do. It just takes what you have in your software and puts it in a book format. And I took this book to a reunion in Australia 2 years ago, and I was able to share it with my cousins. So this is a really good way of pulling it all together and sharing. Another thing that a family tree, a family software will have is a family group sheet. And this is where you've just summarized all your research. You can plop in your photos. I could have done that for the kids. And here is the different things that research I've done. This is a family, Daniel Willis and Polly Perrine, is a colonial family that I've been following for a long time. And you can see I have a lot of pages of information that I've kept together on this family. Daniel and Polly were during the colonial time. These are their children. And again, I put together some of the things that a timeline. And I also, if you stop working on a family, you kind of want to summarize where you are. Otherwise, when you get back to it 6 months or a year later, you're going to have forgotten where you are. And so I, as a habit, try and just summarize what I'm working on. And you see, I had a research objective, and I tried to just summarize what I had done with that. And then I always have a to-do list, like when I get back to you, Polly and Daniel, these are some things that I want to do, that I want to just kind of check on. And also negative searches, places I checked that didn't have anything. So I'm not necessarily repeating myself. But here's another thing that I include in my timeline. I include things that are in the historical context. Polly was 9 years old when the Declaration of Independence was signed. And she lived in New Jersey, on the border of New York and New Jersey. So her little town of Westfield was threatened by a British army. And I can just imagine, in reading general history about Westfield, the British Army, you can see down that bottom box, the British Army passes near Westfield in December, and livestock are moved to the mountains. Later in December, a British column actually passes through Westfield and attacks Springfield, a neighboring town. I can just imagine Polly at 9 years old helping her family herd the cattle up into the mountains. I have been to Westfield. I've seen the landscape. I've actually seen where her family lived on the land. There's houses there now. And I have an idea of the geography. And I can just imagine the family being terrified and not wanting to lose their livestock and herding it up to Westfield. These are the makings of the stories that we all love about our family. I also went to the cemetery and saw Polly's grave. And the headstone reads down here at the bottom, a constant friend, a loving wife, prudent in all cares of life, arrested early by the hand of death, in faith and hope, resigned her breath. Her youngest child she wished to have, buried with her in this same grave. This she said in a low tone and with a sigh, God's will be done. Likely that she died of childbirth. And here's a footnote 10. And down here, it just puts my sources together. And I know that I got that from a guide to the colonial cemetery of the Presbyterian Church in Westfield. As many of you have found who have frequent cemeteries, the marble tombstones wear, and it's really hard to read inscriptions that are 250, 300 years old. So I was really happy to find this guide to the colonial cemetery where someone had actually written down this epitaph, and I could read it because I couldn't read it on her gravestone. Here's the cemetery. Here's her mother, Sabra, and her father is the one laying down. The tombstone next to it is hers. That's her mother, and the next one is an infant brother that died. I can put all these families all these pictures in my software. Also, I just put in a template for my source material, and it comes right up with sources. So that's really easy. It's much easier to do it online when someone else has done the source, but the templates make it fairly easy. And sources are important because you might want to go back and check on something, and it adds credibility. If someone says, well, where did you get that information? Well, you know where you got that information. And you can go back and compare the old research with the new. Maybe you find something that's a little bit more up to date and seems more realistic, then you can go back and compare the two. And you can evaluate your sources. And primary resources, like we've talked about before, are always better than secondary sources. And secondary sources are better than others. But sources are important, and they're not necessarily the fun part of what we do, but it's important to have those. And if that is something that interests you and you've done a lot of work with source material, Elizabeth Shawn Mills is the diva of genealogy citations, and she's written a book about evidence explained. Just in passing, the Chicago style sheet is what genealogists use, and for their online sources, they use the MLA. But that's sources, and that's a whole another issue. We want to make this fun and not be bogged down in sources. Now the Jedcon is an application where it sort of like takes all this information out of your software and it puts it in this thing that you can pass on to a cousin or a friend. And they take the Jedcon, and they upload it to their software, even though it's not the same software. My cousins have Family Tree Maker. I have Reunion. I just send Jedcons and they can take my Jedcon and upload it into their software. You can also upload a Jedcon into Family Search or Ancestry or MyHeritage or Find My Past. It's a way to exchange genealogical data between genealogical software and computer applications. So it's just, if you hear that term, just know that it's a tool that you use to send information back and forth, and it's very easy to use. So when you're choosing a genealogical software, think about these things. Is there a free trial? You really want to just play with it a bit before you invest. Are there free training materials? Because there will be a little bit of a learning curve. Is the company growing or is it dead? If it's not going anywhere and you see that they haven't done any updates in the last few years, then you probably don't really want to invest in that company because you don't know if it's going to be around. But if you see that every couple of years they have an update, that's a good sign. Can your information be viewed on your smartphone and your tablet so that if you don't have internet access, can you still get to that information? And does it produce this Jedcon file because you want to share it with friends? And what platform is it available in? One that you have, Mac or PC. So that's all about choosing genealogy software. And that's the next step. Okay, now we're going to get into something really important. What do you like to do? Do you like folders or do you like binders? I actually like both. I'm really a binders person, but I like to use folders for my temporary transition. Like when I come back from a trip and I've got some things, I like to put them in folders so that I know I can get back to them. But I'm really a binders person. And you say, what's in these binders? These are the things that are not digitized, like a marriage certificate, a deed, that you might have the original copy of, or pictures, or a letter. Here's some Mike Monroe family. Something that is something that you want to keep, that you don't want to throw out. Maybe you have some amazing original pictures. You want to keep those. Those are the kinds of things I put in my binder in a PVC acid-free sleeve so that they're safe. And those are probably the things I would take as I go out the door if I'm evacuated because of a fire, because those are the original documents that can't be replaced. Now, I organize my binder by couples and I organize my folders by couples. And that works for me. But I've gone a step further and you might say, oh, this is really over the top. But I assign a number because I have a lot of John Greens. And if I just have a folder that says John Green, I want to know which John Green it is. So I use a number system, but start out just by using couples. I also have a section in my binder where I just have information on the general surname. I might have some information on the Green family, but I can't divide it up by the couple because it's about all the Greens. Then I have a surname division in my binder. And I may have visited a place like Westfield and I picked up some brochures and I'd like to keep those brochures. And I have put those in sleeves and I put those in the binder as well. Now this is just an example of the numbers that I have. I have an index at the beginning of the binder that tells me number 3 are my grandparents, 4 are my great-grandparents, etc. But this way I don't get my John Greens mixed up. But putting on your tabs the couple's name works perfectly fine. And I get my numbers from my software. You can see down here, Family ID. That's where I get my numbers. Okay. The binder contains primary source materials, legal documents, vital records, loose photos, letters, maps, things that I want to keep, and I might just as well stick in a folder, which is fine. Okay, so that's our paper items and our online trees and our software. Now, we still have a lot of computer files that are all over our computer. And how do we organize those? We can put some of these things in our software, but I personally like to just keep the documents that I've downloaded from Ancestry or from Family Search in separate files. And I label them by genealogy, surname, the name, and I put the dates of the person, places, emails, and photos. And let me just show you how I do this. So this might give you some ideas. I label my files first by name, then I do the document, name dot document. Then I do the date when the document was created, and then I do the location. And I do that for all my files, so that if I'm searching, as we can with our computers, I can pull up something by location, I can pull it up by the document name like census and find it. But I put it in under a folder system. So my surnames are on the left here. And then I'm looking at Green, and I'm going into John Willis Green, and I have the years of his life. And then on the right, I have documents that I've kept that have given me information about him. And I do it chronologically. So I have like a timeline. And then these two on the bottom are not connected to a timeline. But that way I have my documents right there. I can go right to them. My next step is to integrate those into my software. I haven't really done that yet. I've footnoted them, but I haven't put the physical document in the software, and I intend to do that. But for now, this works for me. Now, if I have a folder or something I've taken online, I can put it into the place. So you can see I've collected Canada, Sweden, United States. For my United States folder, I go into New Jersey, Essex County, and Westfield. And then there are some things that I've collected, and I can go right into the Westfield things I've collected that I don't have in my binder that are digitized. Okay, photos. Now, again, you might want to go back and look at that presentation I did last year. But this was my COVID project, my paper photos. And I've been trying to organize them by year. I've been going through a box one at a time, and I'm deciding whether to digitize them or put them in an album. I was pretty good on my historical photos, not so good on the photos with my kids, the last 30 years or so. I would get the yellow envelope, look at it, enjoy it, and then toss it in a box, and then didn't do anything with it. So it's catching up with me. It's haunting me right now. So I've been working on that, and that's been my COVID project. And I hope to digitize the ones that I want to keep. I'm trying to keep one copy of each image. I'm asking myself, do I need copies of a vacation or event? I'm trying to just select the important ones and toss the rest. And I'm definitely getting rid of blurry, under and overexposed pictures. I don't need those. And if I really want to keep them, I'm scanning them. So that's been my photo project. Okay, so now I've scanned them. What do I do with them? I want to be sure I label them. And I use that same labeling system: name, event, date, location. And the metadata would be the where my source was, who took the photo, who actually has the collection, when was it taken, any other information I want to include. And I get that on the photo. And then I organize in computer folders. But one of the things you need, and here's my computer files of photos that there are some photos I keep in my computer because my dad took these pictures, and I want to just keep them separate because my dad's notes are on them. But one of the things that you'll want to look at as you look at your photos is look at photo organizers. I think that they're easier to use than folders. And there's a number of them. Adobe has different versions of photo organizers. Google Photos is a way to go. MemoryWeb, Maureen Taylor recommends this. You put your photos in, and you can put your stories in with the photos. Collectionaire allows you to put in movies and interviews and photos. So those are all possibilities. I am an Apple user, so I use Apple Photos. Again, all of these have the same elements. You pick the one, if this is something that you're interested in, I advise you to look at the reviews of these various things and see what works for you, what's easiest for you. So Apple Photos again, I have it organized by person. I organize it by person because in lots of cases I have photos for one part, one of the couple, and one for the other. This is what I've been working on recently. I've been trying to get my photos in albums by the person and chronological. So I've taken my great-grandfather and I've organized by, this is the family Bible that has him mentioned, that a Swedish ancestor sent me. And here's his wife, Fredrika, and here I take him through his houses and then later in life. It's all here. And I can do a slideshow or I can send these out to cousins. I also did it for my grandfather, same thing. I took, and I've labeled them, took them all and I have them in order. So it's just a photo organizer, whatever you choose, is a really nice way to look at your photos. Now I can put these in my software as well, but I have so many photos. I've really been more selective about what I put in my software and kept all of them in my photos, Apple Photos. With your photo organizer, you can put in a place and it will pull up the pictures that have to do with a place. Like Escalon is a town where my dad is from. It's by Modesto. And because I've labeled these pictures, I call up Escalon and they all come up. So it just really helps you have a handle on your photos. And photos are what help us tell the story. Photos make our ancestors' lives come to life. And if you're going to start anywhere, maybe photos is one to consider. Okay, so finally, I want to talk a little bit about Evernote. And Evernote is something I discovered a few years ago. It is a program that it is free to a certain extent. And then if you want a premium membership, you do pay for the year. But Evernote is for all of those slips of paper. It's a note-taking, organizing, task list, and archiving software. And you download it on your computer. It is there for you to use. And you can sort your notes into notebooks. You can tag them. You can annotate them and you can edit them. And I use it for recipes, for my grocery list, for my genealogy, for my travel plans, my Christmas organization list. I use it for all kinds of things. It's the kinds of things that sit on a pile on your desk and you don't know what to do with. And then you can't find them. Well, if you put them into Evernote, you scan them or however you attach them to Evernote, you know where to find them when you need them. They're not sitting there looking at you on that pile by your desk. So the first level of membership is free. And it syncs across all your devices. You can be in the grocery store with your phone and look at your list, your grocery list. It has a web clipper. I love this feature. It means that if you're on a site that you want to keep, say for example, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, you're really serious about what you're researching. And all of a sudden this website pops up that is so interesting. And you're very tempted to go down Alice's rabbit hole with this site. But no, you want to finish this other thing. You can click this website, tag it, and when you're ready to go back to that piece, it's not lost. You're not printing it out. You're not putting it on your desk. It's in Evernote, easy to find. And I love this web clipper feature. You can search by the notebook or the tags. Like, for example, say I find something about one of my ancestors. I can tag it with his name. So when I'm doing research on him again, I can pull up all these things that I found and put them in my software or put them on my online family tree. So it's just a way of being on top of your organization. It also has, and this is the next level, so you do pay for this, an optical character recognition. And what is that? That is the ability, it's AI, artificial information. It's a way of intelligence. It's a way of going through the words and picking out the words. So for example, say I'm looking for something on enumeration districts, which have to do with the census. And I know I have a document in there. If I type in enumeration district, this program will find every document I have that has those words in it. So it's really a way of indexing the things that you have in Evernote. And you can collaborate with others. You can send people what you have. You can actually exchange documents back and forth. And you can use it to organize all parts of your life, not only genealogy. So I guess I've been using it about maybe 6-7 years. And it's really helped me with those pieces of paper that I don't want to lose. So for example, I was planning a trip to North Dakota to see the area where my great grandparents brought their family in 1880. And I came across this Trail County and the Emmanuel Lutheran Church. Well, I wasn't really focusing on the Emmanuel Lutheran Church at the time, but I thought, aha, that's probably a church I'm going to visit. I want to save this. So I clipped it and put it into Evernote. And it was there. It was there for me when I needed it again. I was in Find My Grave, and this is a graveyard I was going to go to and search. I clipped the family names that from Family Search and put that on Evernote. So when I was in the graveyard, I just pulled this up and I had the list of graves to look for. So they were right there. Been written a lot on Swedish immigration, and this was just an article I wanted to save. And so I clipped that. Buxton is the town my family moved to. I clipped that. Switching to a little different topic. This is the UC Berkeley Library Catalog. And my other side of my family, my English-Scottish family, lived in an area called Peachtree in San Benito County. And I saw this great book, Peachtree, Possessions of Miller and Lux, which were a large agricultural company in the 1880s, 90s. And this is a book I want to get. I want to get this through interlibrary loan. So I just clicked it. So I have an interlibrary loan file when I am ready to order that book through, which you can order through the county, and Carmel have interlibrary loans. This was also another one, Miller and Lux. So I love this web clipper. It's just a way of keeping things that you have and not being distracted from what you were originally working on, but you don't lose them. You don't lose them, and you don't print them out and have the pile by your desk. I also put my correspondence issues in, people I'm corresponding with, into Evernote, so that if I am in contact with someone, I could leave them in my email. But if I'm in contact with someone through a DNA contact on one of the big four or whatever, I can look up, pull their name in, pull it up, and I've got the correspondence I've had with them so that I'm not repeating myself. So it's just a good way of keeping track of my DNA contacts and my genealogy planning and all the kinds of correspondence that I want to keep and not lose. So that's Evernote. So that's something that interests you. You might just do a little exploring, look at it online, and see if that's something you can use. So what's your plan of attack? Okay, figure out how you want to use the online tree. And I have my things up on an online tree, but they're not a full online tree. Enough to attract documents, enough to attract other cousins, enough to get research hints. My whole tree is not up there because there's family things that I just don't want up there. My genealogy software, I keep everything, and it's on my computer, it's my record. And I can make that into a book for my kids. And as I said a couple months ago, the kids won't throw out the books. They may throw out your software, they may throw out your online trees, but if you've made a book, they'll probably keep the book because mom made it. So genealogy software helps you do a book. Or of course, there are other ways to make books too, but it's an easy way to do it. Decide whether you want to use binders or folders and how you want to set that up. Think about your digitized computer files, and I do it by surname and couple. Think about your photos and how you want to organize it, and look at a photo organization software because they make life a lot easier. I think it's a little cumbersome to put your photos in computer files, but that is a way of doing it, and we all are organized in different ways. And then Evernote, the way to organize those random notes. So those are some things to think about as you think about those piles on your desk. And many of you have heard me say this many times, but I'm saying it again because it's so important. Make sure you back up your research, whether it be on a hard drive, in a company like Dropbox or Backblaze. The hard drive is a great way to have it right by your computer. But remember, that can't be the only one, because if you have a fire or if you're robbed, you're going to lose your computer and your hard drive. So make sure you either have your hard drive in a safe deposit box or you have another copy over at your friend's house. Just make sure it's out of the house. And I speak because I have been in the Oakland Hills fire. I've been in the two Sobranas fire, the Big Basin fire, and I was evacuated, summer ago with the Carmel fire, and we've been robbed. So for me, backing up is like critical. If I've done research, I don't want to lose it. Dropbox works, cloud storage on Apple works, and I use Backblaze because it's constantly backing up, and it's fairly inexpensive, like $60 a year. $60 a year, so you don't have to worry about you're losing your stuff. And then, of course, everybody has computer problems, and we always lose something with our computer. So if you've got it backed up, you're in good shape. Okay, that's just I always have to say that, back up your stuff. Okay, so this week, start the organization process. Don't get overwhelmed. Just set a small goal, decide what you want to do, and just keep to that, and the others will come down the line. Look at those family trees on Family Search and Ancestry, if you have an account, and decide if you want to do that or not. Decide whether you want to do a software or not. It may not be what you want to do at this point. And just begin with a small part, maybe just paper documents or a binder. Maybe just setting up the digitized documents in folders on your computer. Maybe just labeling and organizing your photos. But choose one of these things to look at, and the others will come along. But down the road, as you get more involved in genealogy, you're going to want to think about how you see your information and how you want to pass it on to the next generation. And some of these things might be more helpful than others. So remember, anything you do now is better than this. And I just hope that you will have some ideas about what you're going to do. Drew Smith, who has a podcaster who does genealogy guides, he has written a book, Organize Your Genealogy, which I found helpful. So that's someone that you might check out and see what he has to say. So I wish you the best with that. Before I turn it back over to Shawn and any questions, I wanted to share that next month, which would be March 10th, we're going to be talking about planning a reunion, whether it be in person or whether it be virtual. And I've asked a person who has done amazing in-person reunions to join us. She is currently, her name is Linda Saunders. She's president of the Santa Clara Genealogical Society. And she actually has a group that plans yearly reunions, and she's going to share some amazing things that they do. I've learned a lot from her. But we're going to talk about a reunion, what to do. So that's next month, March 10th. I also wanted to invite you to a monthly group that meets under normal times in the Family History Library, but we're meeting on Zoom now, and we're next Wednesday, the third Wednesday of each month, on February 16th. And we're going to be talking about creating a digital archive, much like a library would create, of the things that we have that will be up for our family. So our kids maybe won't have to worry about our files, but they'll have it all nicely placed somewhere and they can access it. And Caitlin Jernigan from permanent.org will be with us sharing that. And I'm going to share a little bit about how I started this. I'm just getting started now. So that's this next Wednesday. Please email me if that interests you, and I'll be happy to send you a link. And I also wanted to just remind you that Roots Tech, which is the largest genealogy conference in the world, is going online this year. Again, it was online last year, and it's free. It goes on for 3 days. And they will have all those talks up if you're registered the whole year. So you don't have to look at them 3 days. Just register and then check it out during the year. I found out there's different things that I've been interested in as the year's gone on. And I've gone back and looked at the talks about those things that I've been interested in. It's an amazing, this is put on by the Family History Library in Salt Lake City by Family Search. And I really recommend it. So if conferences are things that interest you, check that out. You can just search Roots Tech and it will be a place to register. And finally, Shawn is there to help you with your genealogy questions and help you with the California History Room and give you advice on where to go for those, even those who have family outside of California. And this is my email if you'd like to get in touch with me, and if you'd like me to help you with any questions that you have. So I'm going to turn it back over to Shawn and see if there are any questions that I can perhaps answer.
Thank you very much, Kathy, and thank you so much for that great presentation. At this time, the floor is open. If anyone has a question, please feel free to place it in the chat or unmute yourself. And
I'm very interested in if any of you have found an organization process that's worked for you. I'd love for you to share it also right now so that we can learn from you as well.
Well, I know for myself, working with a little bit of my family genealogy, I inherited quite a bit from my grandma. I'm a computer file person. I've been digitizing all her handwritten notes because folders just take up a little too much space.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So you've been digitizing, you've been busy.
Yes, the phones work great to digitize, make things into PDFs, and then I can keep them on my laptop, take it, travel home and back. So that's what's been working for me.
That's great. You know, being in the archival business like Shawn is and how I have been in the past, you can kind of look at our documents as our archive. This is our legacy that we're passing on to our families and to cousins and to people who are interested in what we're doing. So it is a legacy that we want to get in order so that it won't be lost. And Shawn, that's really great that you're doing that. And I imagine a lot of you are actually scanning and putting these together. Anybody have a really neat way of organizing? No? Okay. Let's see. Anybody else have a software that they use that they like? Please share if you do. Gail, do you use the software?
I have a really ancient version of Family Tree Maker. It doesn't sync to anything. It is like the second great grandfather of Family Tree Maker software. And I periodically copy and paste stuff from my ancestry tree over to my software rather than the other way around. My main tree is honestly on Ancestry.
Mm-hmm.
I do have one comment about Evernote. One of the frustrations for me in trying to use Evernote is that you cannot go very deep into subfiles, whereas on a word processing program, you can have a main file and then subfiles and subfiles, you know, off into the sunset almost. And I'm a person who organizes in that way. So I organize my genealogy by surname, but then within that, I will break out all the children of my grandparents or all the children of my great grandparents. And sometimes within those, I'll break out family homes or essential. I have a file I call essential documents for each person, where I make sure that things I've downloaded or things I've scanned that need to not be lost, that are essential to confirming that person's identity, that I put in the essential documents file.
That's great. That is a good point about Evernote, that they're nesting folders. It is a little clunky. Actually, it's easier to use tags with Evernote. But I would agree with you, folders within folders. You know, if you have maybe 2 folders, you're fine. But once you get down to the 3rd level, it does get clunky. Yeah. So I agree. That's a good point. So I use a lot of tags as a result. But thank you for that. Jennifer, do you use the software? Jennifer Coyle, do you use the software? How do you organize your
Um,
Am I catching you off guard?
Sorry. Am I still on mute?
We
No.
can hear you.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm really new to this, and basically, I'm in the folders and clear plastic bins. One for, I've accidentally been following 3 different families, so I have one plastic bin for each family at the moment, and then lots of computer files. So.
Okay, so that's good. That's a good place to start. Thank you.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
see that Linda Sanders is on. Linda's going to be with us next month. Linda, oh, I'm so glad to see you.
I'm here.
Linda,
Yeah.
Linda, this is our reunion lady who is just amazing on reunions. How do you organize your files? What do you do?
Well, I'm a dedicated family tree maker user, and I definitely use computer files, and I'm starting to use OneNote.
Ah, okay. And that's very much like Evernote, same principle.
Right. So I inherited from a family member 10,000 pages of correspondence and family group sheets and photos and things. So we're doing a major scanning project, and all of that is going to be digitized, and my daughter's helping me index it, and then we're donating all of the files to the Oklahoma Historical Society. But because I know my kids aren't going to want to play with it, but I'm definitely a computer person, computer files.
That is great. What a job. Do you keep those special documents like an actual deed or something that you don't want? What do you do with those? A marriage?
I am keeping those in my, we have a large safe that's 4-hour fire safe, and I'm keeping them in there because they are priceless, you know, but I'm going to run out of space, so I don't have a long-term plan.
So there's a lot of aspects to this. We are the keepers of the legacy, and Linda's suggestion that she is getting it ready to give it to a repository so that it will be used by others besides her family is wonderful. And that's another thing to consider for all of us. So there are lots of things to consider here. And along that same line, the Monterey Public Library, the California History Room, many people have donated their papers, their letters to a repository like the California History Room, so that others can use them. And the things that are in the California History Room are accessed by the people who come in and are doing research, either for their family or writing a book or whatever. But there are these repositories all over the country that would be connected to your family. And that's wonderful. Thank you for reminding us about that.
Well, the person that I inherited the papers from and my own paternal grandmother qualify to be in the early settlers, Oklahoma.
Oh, that's great. So they're really looking forward to those papers.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, thanks.
Anybody else have something that they're doing in terms of organization that's really working for them? Margaret, what about you? How do you organize your stuff? Because you've got a lot going on. Margaret Quartz, you've got a lot of transcription going on.
Yes, I have a couple of interesting situations. One is I did start this almost 20 years ago, and the software was changing all the time. It wasn't clear, you know, the roots and all that you mentioned. And so I wasn't going to go there. So what I do is I have outlines, and the outlines delineate the generations, for example. I didn't want to be, subject to the software when it might not be around 10 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
I think things are more stable now.
But this is a good point.
And I think you can transfer, from one more easily to another, but that wasn't the case then. So I chose Microsoft Word and outlining. And the other thing is that I have a lot of pictures. I did digitize them because they were hard to manipulate otherwise or share, but everything I have was in the German language, and I know some, but not all. And I get bogged down in that situation. Right now, I have letters between my father and his mother, my grandmother, during World War II. So you have an interesting situation that's multidimensional. One, he has health problems. So did my grandfather that I have. In 2016, I found out that I have genetic issues in terms of processing toxins. And I went to genealogy to find out if anybody else had that problem. And sure enough, they did. So I followed up and was one of the first people to get the data for that. So that was a whole component of the genealogy. And the other one is that my grandfather and my father and myself resorted to photography because we could do it no matter how tired or sick we were. And so it was fun and amazing to discover all that. And then, all of these things were reflected in those World War II letters. He could not become a soldier because he got chronically ill. So what did he do? He had by the way, his grandmother and grandfather had gone to the US and they went back to Germany. That's different. But my grandmother sent my father to a driving school way back in, the early, before the World War II. And he learned how to drive a Mercedes because that was the car in Germany, right? So then that allowed him to become involved with cars during World War II. He became a chauffeur. Therefore, he was not seriously at risk for his life.
So Margaret, I think what you are doing is amazing. And Margaret is part of the Off the Charts group. We've been following her transcribing of these German letters of her father who was in World War II. And Margaret has an amazing collection to pass on her legacy. It's just, all of us have a legacy. We have to figure out what's the best way to pass it on and what's the best way to keep it so it doesn't get lost. And so each of us will come up with some kind of way of organizing, but the important thing is that you get those things off your desk and you have them in a place where you can access them. And whatever works best for you, whether it be folders or binders or computer files, is what you need to work on. And I wish you the best, and I hope to hear from some of you and see how you're doing on that. So is that it? Or are there any other questions or anything else?
I have a point to make. When you're on Ancestry and I let my subscription lapse, I can still access it, but you've only attached the documents. It's very important that you download the documents, like your census records. Otherwise you can't get to them. And another thing I do, so I'm sorry, I use Ancestry as my main tree, but I use Family Search to find documents that I can download them and put them in Ancestry.
So
you can't research anymore on. If I don't have a subscription, I can't research on Ancestry. So I use Family Search.
So Elaine, when you get into, because I haven't had that experience. When you go in, you no longer have a subscription to Ancestry. You can see your family tree. Can you also see the documents that you've attached to your family?
I cannot open up if it's attached, I can't open it.
I see.
So then if I have a bunch of census records, then I just go into Family Tree and I download them and then I attach them and then I can access them on Ancestry. It has a little trash can next to them.
Yes. Oh, that's really good advice. So,
right.
So in Elaine's situation, she can go to Family Search and get those documents because the documents are listed. She can get into Ancestry, see her family tree and see the documents. She just can't look at the documents.
Right. And then I also use the library edition because Family Search doesn't have city directories, and those have been really helpful for me.
You know what has city directories is Heritage Quest at the library. And we talked about that last month. So when you're at the library, check out Heritage Quest. They do have directories.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I also, I save my records very similar to how you do. I just put a main folder that says genealogy, and then a subfolder, all the alphabet A, B, C, D, E. And within that, my last name is I have John and Mary Smith are my parents, lucky me. So under S, I'll have a bunch of Smiths, or B for Bertrand. And then I have another folder that I just call Genealogy Overflow, and I'll put maps and everything else, pictures of cemeteries or something. so I can find stuff really quickly by alphabetizing it, sort of like what you do.
Oh, that's great. Well, that
Yeah.
works. That works.
It's the only way to do it.
Yeah. Absolutely. If you aren't doing something, you're not going to find what you need.
Yeah.
So, anyone else have some great ideas? We all learn from each other.
I don't know, find a grave, you have to use that. That's the best.
Who just said that?
I just said, I
Elaine,
did.
oh, find
Yeah,
a
I just
grave
said
is
find
the
a
best.
grave is like,
It's the
you have
best.
to use
It's
that
the
also.
Find a grave is definitely, and you can put your documents on that and find a grave
Yes.
too. That's another place to have your chart.
Yes.
You know, lots of places to put them there. So, and look at good opportunities to share with cousins. So things
Yeah.
are not lost.
I've had a lot of cousins contact me through Ancestry, and we've shared a lot of photos. It's been fantastic.
That's great.
But I don't, as far as downloading records, I don't do it for everybody. I just do it for a small portion of my family. And then Linda, you're from Oklahoma. You have records that you look at in Oklahoma. Oklahoma has digitized all their newspapers going way back. So I have found,
I'll have to check that. Wow.
yes, it's Oklahoma. I can't think of the name, but just look up digitized newspapers in Oklahoma.
My paternal grandmother was born in Oklahoma before it became a state.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Right.
That's great. Oh, thanks for the tip.
They were in the newspaper quite a bit because they had dry goods stores, and they were sort of the society pages. You know, every time they did something, they talked about it.
Oh, wow.
So I've
I'll
gotten a
check that
lot
out.
through them. Mhm.
Wow. Thank you. That's great news.
It's called Gateway to Oklahoma.
Okay.
It's Gateway to Oklahoma.
Thank you.
Great.
What county are they from?
Well, it was originally Choctaw County, but it's Durant.
I'm not sure where that is.
Yeah, well.
That's great. Well, thank you, Elaine. Thanks
you.
for the tips.
Yeah, that's great.
All right. And just to reiterate, Kathy, you said that Heritage Quest has city directories, correct?
Yes, and Elaine, Heritage Quest is, you can access it remotely if you have a library card at the Monterey Public Library.
I do.
Yeah, so you can do that tonight. You can check out the directories tonight.
No, I think I'm pretty much done researching. I've tapped out.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
But well, you know what's nice about the library edition though is that it's international.
Yes, yes, it is.
So I found some German ancestors. I went way back with them, which I had never tried it with my subscription. And that was really nice.
Yeah, so the library is not, you cannot personalize it with your DNA, and you cannot create your family tree, but it has the records. So, and it's free. I mean,
well, we're also very lucky because we have an LDS library in Seaside.
That's
right. Are you
right.
guys aware of that? Up there on Noche Buena or somewhere? You
Yeah,
can go in there and they're very helpful. You can order microfilm from the LDS and they'll ship it to you. You can open it up and find old records, you know, deeds, trustee deeds from when before Oklahoma was a state during the land runs.
Yes, and my heritage is on there and family trees. So,
yeah.
Family past. So,
but that library in Seaside is very helpful. We're very lucky to have that.
Yeah, we've got some amazing resources in this area.
Yes.
Is it open to the public now?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know. I haven't checked since COVID, but no, definitely.
It is. It's open on Tuesday morning and Thursday afternoons.
And you can use their.
It's good to call. It's good to call this.
You can use their ancestry.com, and then also they have the records for the military records. I can't think of the name.
Fold 3.
They have that on there, and then if you want to order a document, you can order it through them. So you don't have to get all these subscriptions.
Yeah.
Especially when it's only a couple of soldiers you're interested in.
Right.
So that's very helpful. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Elaine. Thanks for the tips.
Sure.
So, Shawn, anything else that came up in chat or?
No, it looks like that was all the questions. So just a lot of thank yous, very helpful program, great information. So thank you again, Kathy.
Thank you. Thank you for all of your tips that you shared. And Shawn and I and Linda will see you next month.
Yes.
to talk about reunions.
And just wanted to let everyone know that, like Kathy mentioned, next month we'll be doing this again. And then next week we will be having historian Tim Thomas with his Monterey Magical History Tour. And he's doing a virtual tour of the Japanese American Citizen League's new exhibit, which is located in downtown Monterey. So if you're curious, please feel free to register and sign up for that too. Well, thank you again, Kathy, and thank you all for taking your time to see us and spend some time with us. And I look forward to seeing you all next month.
Great. Thank you, Shawn. I'll see you all next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.